Of you and turn to 7, hymn number 7. Let's sing Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Familiar song as you come on in, hymn number 7, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy praise. Mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming blood. Hymn number 7 on the 2nd. Here I raise mine Ebenezer, hither by thy help I'm come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God. He to rescue me from danger interposed his precious blood. Oh, to grace how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness like a fetter bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it for thy courts above. Great song to begin, and then let's turn to 85. 85. This is a prayer, Savior like a shepherd lead us. We'll just sing the first and the third, hymn number 85. Savior, like a shepherd, lead us. Much we need thy tender care. In thy pleasant pastures feed us. For our use thy folds prepare. Blessed Jesus, thou hast bought us, thine we are. Blessed Jesus, thou hast bought us, thine we are. The third as the last. Thou hast promised to receive us, poor and sinful though we be. Thou hast mercy to relieve us, grace to cleanse and power to free. Blessed Jesus, early let us turn to thee. Blessed Jesus, early let us turn to thee. And then 116. 116. This is my Father's world. I love when Pastor Rogers leads this song, but he's not here tonight to lead it. It's such an encouraging song about, kind of puts us into the right mindset with a biblical worldview. We look around and things are kind of interesting, might be a positive way of saying it, but when we look up and we see from God's perspective, it can help. Would you join me in standing if you can tonight as we sing This is my Father's world, 116. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears All nature sings and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, His hand the wonder wrought. This is my Father's world. The birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear Him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. You are doing a great job singing. Would you lift it up as loud as you can on the last? Oh, let me ne'er forget on the third. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one.
Thank you, Sam. Let's go ahead and pray, and you can be seated. Father in heaven, we're grateful again that we do have the opportunity to I pray this evening that as we gather that you would help us to enjoy our time, and I pray that you would help us to grow and just to be prepared for the things that we face. So bless our evening, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. You can be seated. So we have, you good? All right. We have our harvest party tonight, and we have our young people with their costumes. So we're going to have a Pee-wee group come in, and then the Patch is going to come in, and they're going to all sing for us.
Madison. Oh, Miss Madison, you're so cute. Look, there's a dinosaur. A giant dinosaur. Dinosaur. That's a real dinosaur. That's a dinosaur. Look at that guy. It looks like a giant dinosaur. A pig. There's a pig. A dinosaur. There's a pig. There's even a pig. Dinosaur. There's macaroni and cheese. That dinosaur is huge. Look at that mustache. You're a witch. She's so cute. Oh, the dinosaur. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Hide under a bushel. No! I'm gonna let it shine. Hide under a bushel. No! I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Don't let Satan it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let Satan it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine till Jesus comes. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine till Jesus comes. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Giant dinosaur.
All right, we have some great costumes there. Somebody dressed like me with a cane. Spooky for Halloween, yeah. Well, that was fun. So I'm kind of disappointed. Usually at least one adult dresses, in some kind of costume. Am I missing? There we go, Rebecca. All right. Yeah, we always get one. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So they're having a harvest party tonight. So they're going to go downstairs, and I think they have a game. I think they have a game, some food, and then a lesson that they're kind of rotating between. So they're going to go down and have fun. I don't have any candy up here tonight either, so I'm just failing all the way around. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so a couple of announcements. We do have Friday, if you have kids in the academy, you have a Pensacola Christian College rep here, and any other folks that want to come and hear him in the chapel. He'll be here at 10:40 on Friday, so you're welcome to join us for that if you'd like to. And then our volleyball team, I'm saying that's kind of spooky. Yeah. Our volleyball team is in the AA tournament. We're a single A school, but they're in the AA tournament. They won yesterday, and so they'll play on Friday night in the finals. So there are 4 teams left. They'll play Friday, and that'll determine when they play on Saturday and for what position they play. Then Sunday, regular schedule. So we'll have our prayer time Then it's a combined growth class. I forgot to put that on there, combined growth class. And then we have the service. And that 1 Peter 5 should have been taken off of there as well. Then afterward, we'll do an offering for the LaCroix. And then there's a deacons and trustees lunch and meeting afterward. And then the college growth class has an activity Sunday night. So if you're in that class, we'll meet at 5:30 at our house. And then the LaCroix will be here. Actually, just he will be here. So Sunday morning, he'll speak for the combined growth class at 9:30, and then for the morning service. And then we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and it's at 6:30. And that does include Wednesday next week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 6:30. If you want to come to the meal beforehand, that's at 5:30. But you do need to sign up at the information desk so we have an idea of how many people to be prepared for. And if you want to help with any of those meals, there are people that are in charge of them, and you could help out with those as well. Then veterans, we have a lunch for you on November 9th in the fellowship hall after the morning service. So if you're a veteran, we just have a lunch to say thank you for your service, and would love for you to stay and just enjoy some fellowship after the morning service. And I don't know if that sign-up sheet is out there today, but it will be out there Sunday, so we can get an idea of how many people will be here for that as well. And then we started this last week, but if you're going on Grow, different visits that we make, we would like to hear about those on Wednesday night. And I did get, the Sarders are not here. He's trying not to drive as much at night, but he sent me a report. They went to see Mrs. Price, Mary Price, and she had been in the hospital, but had a good visit with her. And so he gave me a report on that. Anyone else that did their Grow visit that has a report on that tonight? Sam?
Elsa and I went to see Nancy Maloney.
Okay.
So I hadn't met her before, but she used to be a faithful member. I think she's been there about 9 years, though.
Yeah.
In Winchester now. So got to meet her. She talked about growing up in Berryville here on the farm, and talked about coming to know the Lord as a teenage girl. So it's good to meet her and her roommate there. And it was encouraging. When we walked in, she had a couple of bulletins from the church there, so we added some stuff.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. I know you and I had talked about that you didn't know her, so it's kind of fun to meet somebody like that. She's been in there for 9 years, is that what you said? In the nursing home for 9 years. And so a lot of you wouldn't know her, Nancy Maloney, because it's been a long time since she's been able to attend. All right, anyone else? Any other visits that were made? Okay. Well, if you have those, try to get them. Try to make those visits, and then give us a follow-up report on the Wednesday nights, so that we know how things are going with that. This is the last night for our verse, and I don't think we added any more blanks. Carol?
Time change is Sunday.
Correct. I didn't put that, did I? Yeah. My favorite time of year. I despise the time change, but I have a good attitude about it. I know, gain an hour at least, yeah. But that never really helps me, so I'll just get up the same time and come down and work in my office for an extra hour or something on Sunday morning. But yeah, and you know, it's funny, you would think that when we lose the hour in the spring, we would have more people late to church. I'll be curious to see but we have more people late when we gain an hour than when we lose an hour. And I don't know why, but usually we have more people that aren't here for the time change this way than the other way. So that is this coming week, Saturday night, 2 o'clock, get up, change your clock. Yep. All right. Okay, let's do the verse, 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. Let me test you first. What's the first word? Okay, you did well. All right, here you go. 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Okay, good. And then we're going to add, Sunday it'll be in the bulletin, and we'll start saying this together, the next verse. And I don't know if you've ever connected this, but he says, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And so that'll be our verse for this coming month, and then we'll get to those verses as we're going through 1 Peter on Sunday morning, and we'll look more specifically at some of the details of that verse as well. All right, anything else that we're missing? Any announcements? We got the time change. Anything else exciting going on? Anything we need to know about? Yeah, you don't look like you. Everybody needs to cheer up tonight. So it's Wednesday. Woo! All right. Yeah, there we go. You have lots of candy in your house yet? Have your kids, gotten candy? So it's kind of, you guys don't get candy. You don't have kids that are, bringing candy to your house. So, yeah. Mike?
Candy's expensive.
Yes, candy is expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
Tic Tacs in Pat's office.
Tic Tacs in my office. Okay.
Last year James was sick for Halloween, so I collected candy for him and I gave him some of it.
And you gave him some of it? That was nice of you.
35% of it.
Collector's fee. Okay.
Did you use it trick-or-treating or did you go to like Walmart? I went trick-or-treating.
Yeah. Did you have a sign around your neck that said, "My son's sick, I'm collecting for him"?
No, I just had some sob story like pre-written.
Yeah, okay.
Were you wearing the same costume you are today?
Ooh, it's getting vicious now.
I'm gonna go.
All righty. So we're going to go to Ephesians. Ron, what were you going to say? Yes, election. How many have already voted? I can raise my hand now. I did. Okay, a lot of you, probably 2/3 of you at least, have voted. So don't forget Tuesday to vote. I feel a little better about it. Not voting, a bit better about the election. We'll see what happens. But I'm anxious to see what the outcome of the election will be. All right, so we're going to switch. I mentioned this last week. We're going to take a week off from our study at the end of Judges. And when we come back to that in 2 weeks, we'll finish Judges. And we've got a rough passage to go through, one that's just really hard to understand. So we'll get to that, and then we'll go into Ruth and spend a few weeks there. I think just 2, maybe 3 weeks, but probably just 2 weeks with Ruth. But next week we have the evangelist, and so on Wednesday night he'll be speaking. We will have kids programs each night, and so we'll have something for them, be ready for them as well. But I hope you'll plan to be here if you can for those meetings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But I wanted to go just to Ephesians 6, and there's a reason for this. I think it's important for us to keep a real clear perspective from a biblical point of view on the spirit world. And I won't get through everything that I have listed here tonight. But when we think of Halloween, I had something written in there in our bulletin on Sunday. And Halloween is one of those, I guess it's a holiday. I hear it referred to as a holiday. But it's one of those days that is difficult for those who are believers, for Christians, because I don't know what it celebrates. And if I delve into what does it celebrate, I can't find anything redeeming about it. And by redeeming, I mean that makes me think it's going to make me a stronger Christian, that it's going to build us up in our relationship with God. If you start delving into its roots and its history, you will find different sources will come to different conclusions. It goes back to Samhain when it was the shortest day and the spirits were closest to the adults, and so they are to the humans, and so you were able to talk with them. And you'll find some other histories of Halloween. But there's nothing in Halloween that says this is going to make you spiritually stronger. There's no pretense of that. We do a harvest party as an alternative to it. And I will find people, I occasionally run across people who say, well, I don't even think you should do that. I don't think you should acknowledge it at all. I can't really argue with them. I feel comfortable doing it. I think I'll be able to stand before the Lord and say, I think that was the right thing to do. But if they have a conscience where they say, I just can't acknowledge it at all, I'd be fine with that, because I just really don't know what we're celebrating. I don't know what it's all about. And so, as I mentioned in the little article in the bulletin on Sunday, I think the best response to Halloween is to say, okay, let's just kind of roll with it. Let's take advantage of it and use it for good, for the good that we can. So you're going to end up with kids perhaps stopping at your house, at your door. Give them some candy. Give them a good tract. We have some out in the foyer that say something better than candy, and just give them that. And perhaps it would be an opportunity for you to be a witness to somebody using a holiday that we don't even know what it is celebrating, and they don't either. They're just wanting the candy unless their dad gives them 35% of it and keeps it all. So kids are just, they're, for the most part, it's time to get candy. And so I think we can still say, all right, let's take advantage of that and try to be a witness to them. But I do think that it points us to the Scripture and the opportunity to say, what do we know about the spirit world? There are a lot of books and movies out there that deal with the spirit world. What are some of the ones that you know of that are the most popular? What comes to your mind when you think of that realm of writings or of movies? What comes to your mind? What was it? Poltergeist? All right. I don't think I've ever watched that, but yeah, I've heard Poltergeist. Okay. All right. Anything else? What did you say? The Exorcist. Oh, The Exorcist. All right, The Exorcist. Yeah, I missed that one too. Yeah. How about Harry Potter? I have actually, I listened to 90% of the first book. I got it free on an audio book, and it ended. My free download ended. I never heard the end of it. So I'm waiting for it to come around again, but that was like 2 years ago. Now I can't remember. But I have watched a couple of those movies because they came out and they were so popular that I felt like it was worth me taking the time to watch it and see what's going on here. And so you have this story about wizardry and this realm and powers that exist. And those things always concern me because you are opening the door to something that I think we have to be very careful with. As Christians, we have to acknowledge the reality of a spirit world. Some people will try to say, oh, there's nothing, no spirits, there's nothing like that, and it's just all in people's imagination. No, it's not. It is a reality that there is a dimension that we can't see, and it's something that we have to remember that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So let's look at Ephesians 6, and let's do what we often do is just read it first, verses 10 through 13. And I'm going to read it in the King James Version. Then I want you just to think through a couple of things in these verses tonight that will help us as we think about the spirit world and your interaction with it. How should you think about it? How should you think through what's going on? All right. So, chapter 6, verse 10, it says, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. All right, so here is Paul, and he's talking to believers, and he said, I want you to put on the whole armor of God. I want you to be able to stand, to withstand the things that are coming against you. Well, what is it that's coming against you? I'm going to put a lot of words up here tonight, and I'm going to move through some of it a little more quickly because there's the meat of some of this that I want to get to. So the first part of this, verse 10 says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. So here is the first element that we think of when we think of a spirit world. As believers, we count on the fact that there is a spirit, there is a strength that we have access to that others don't. So here in this verse he says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. So I have access to strength that is not my own. And so already in thinking about the spirit world and how we interact with it, he begins by saying there's something that you have access to that you need to take advantage of. So when we look at this, if we were to look at this as a soldier in a battle, he's going to talk about the armor, putting that on. So he's talking about a soldier. He says a soldier, his energy, his power is going to come because he is the representative of his government. A soldier is acting normally on behalf of a government. And this soldier is depending on the government for his supplies. This is, of course, something that comes up once in a while. And if you like to read history, you know that this has always been something that armies have battled with. How do we get our supplies to the troops, and how do we get supplies for our troops? And there have been times when armies have been available, but not supplies for the armies. I was not in the army, not in the military, but I remember when the United States went into Iraq, one of the reasons that we were slowed down when we went in, if I remember correctly, that things fell more quickly than they expected. And one of the things that slowed the soldiers down is that the troops went in and were able to go so much further than they planned that they had to slow down for a little bit because their supplies couldn't keep up. They weren't prepared to move that quickly, and so it actually slowed the troops down because they didn't have the supplies that they needed. And so here he's saying, you're a soldier in God's army. You can depend on Him for strength and for supplies. And he said, I want you to be strong in the Lord. I don't want you to be strong in the fact that you have a long Christian history. In other words, my strength doesn't come because I've been a Christian for 40 or 50 years. My strength doesn't come because I've been a member of a church for a certain amount of time. My strength comes because I'm depending on the Lord. It's also not my intellect, and it's not my spiritual knowledge. You think of somebody like Elijah. Elijah was very, very well taught. It wasn't an intellectual problem that he faced when he went to the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel and he defeated them, and then he came back and he confronted Jezebel. And then remember what happens after that? He finds himself in terrible depression. Well, it wasn't that he didn't know what he ought to do. He had spiritual knowledge. He had shown that on Mount Carmel. He knew what he needed to know, but he was fighting a battle that was beyond that. And the Lord had to sustain him. The Lord had to strengthen him. Not in my upbeat personality. You know, we have to be careful that we don't just think, I'm just going to, get through this. I'm just going to pull myself up by my bootstraps, and I've got a strong personality and an upbeat spirit, and I'll just be fine. Well, sometimes you're going to need the Lord's strength, and it is accessible to you. And it says, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might, the power of His might. When you think about the power that the Lord is offering you, it is the power of the Creator, the sustainer of all things. When you think about some of the things that He did, He was able to feed 5,000 people with just a few fish and a few loaves of bread. He's the one that looked at Lazarus and said, Lazarus, come forth. And it says, he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot in grave clothes. He was able to raise him from the dead. That's the power that you're accessing. That's what he's saying is the strength of his might. Compare that to your strength or your might. If you have somebody who dies, how many of you feel comfortable walking up to the casket and say, hey, come forth? None of us. We don't even have anything that compares. And so when you think about this, here is God saying to you, here's Paul looking at the believers and saying, I want you to be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. You have access to something that is beyond you. You don't have to rely on your strength and your ability. You rely on the Lord. Next verse, he goes on and he says, finally be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. Put on the full armor of God, that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. In the King James Version, it tells us, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. That word wiles means the schemes of the devil. That he's actually scheming to figure out, how can I get you? How can I get you? And he schemes. He makes a plan. And he said, in order to keep from falling prey to him, I want you to put on the full armor of God. Now he's going to come back to that in just a minute. He introduces this topic, and then he's going to pick it up again in verse 13, where he tells what the armor is. But for now, he's going to say, I want you to understand you need this armor. And again, I mentioned this to start with, but Paul is not talking to immature believers. When he's talking to the church at Ephesus, he's actually very complimentary of them. He said, you guys are one of my favorite churches. You have grown. You understand your relationship with the Lord. You're understanding what a church is. You have some real strength here. But in spite of the fact that he's got people who are strong believers, they're seasoned in what they've done, he said, you need the armor of God. I'm telling you to put on the full armor of God. Because you're going to be facing the schemes of the devil. And he goes on, he says, our struggle, the schemes that you're facing, is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. Paul seems to almost take a turn here. He said, most of us think that we're going to go through our days and I'm going to face physical problems, even thinking of sickness, I think. I'm going to face sickness. I'm going to face physical problems every day. I'm going to face struggles on a daily basis, trying to get enough food to eat, in my job, whatever it might be. And he goes on and he says, you know what? You, as a believer, are not struggling just against flesh and blood. Well, what's flesh and blood? These are the things you see. These are the things that you can physically take hold of. We're used to that. In youth, there weren't a lot of things that we feared. I'm getting old enough now that there are things that I can't do anymore. But when you're young and you're strong and you're thinking, I can handle life. He said, you can handle the physical, but that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned that your flesh and blood will fail right now. I'm concerned about another aspect, another dimension. You're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities. That's rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly places. This is the reason that when I watch something like Harry Potter, think we have to be really careful because it minimizes how much of a battle this is. And it makes it so that it doesn't seem as evil and wicked as it actually is. And so you have to be cautious that when you're into something like that, you're watching that, you realize there really is a spiritual battle. And it really is something that can be destructive. And so if you don't take it seriously, it's something that can easily destroy you. All right? So let's take a look then at the specifics of this verse. We've talked about the physical, the flesh and blood. That's talking about the things that are visible, that you can actually see. But then he said there is a spiritual battle that is a whole unseen dimension. You can't see it. You can't see these forces that you're going up against. You may see the effects of those forces, but you can't see the forces themselves. They are not visible to you. And we know this because there is evidence in Scripture of times when God has allowed people to see some of these dimensions, some of these angels, but we can't normally see them. And so he said there is a physical battle, there's also a spiritual battle. There's a visible and there's an invisible. And so there are battles going on that you sometimes don't realize. Let me put it this way. I think that there are times when there are emotional battles and struggles that you have that fall into this category. That there are times when you in your life might go through some struggles that you're just really wondering, what's going on here? Why am I having a hard time? Did you ever wake up and you're just mad? Well, sometimes it's just you. You're just, your own flesh is getting you. But did you ever go through a period of time when it just seemed like you were oppressed? Not demon-possessed, but I'm talking about you were just having some real spiritual battles. You probably will if you haven't. When you've had either emotionally you're struggling, or you're going through some spiritual struggles, and you're just thinking, I don't know what's going on. I had my devotions today, so everything should be good. I should be having a great day. Don't ever believe that. But you're thinking, I don't know what's going on. Sometimes this can be it. But there is actually a spiritual battle going on that you're going to have to work your way through. I've always used this. There are 3 words. I didn't put the graphic up here tonight, but do you remember the graphic that I have that's talking about doing, thinking, and feeling? Anybody remember that? All right, a couple of you do. So doing, thinking, and feeling. Let me ask you a question. Does what you're doing affect what you think? All right, you just work through that in your mind. Does what you're doing affect how you think? All right, just and follow through. Does what you're thinking affect what you decide to do? Sure it does. So let's talk about church. So here it is Wednesday night, and I know that Wednesday night, middle of the week, I love the Wednesday night service. I think I enjoy that. We only have the 2 now, but I really enjoy it Wednesday night. But Wednesday night, you're thinking, I've worked all day. It'll be just really nice to sit in my lounge chair at home and just rest. And so you're thinking, I kind of deserve this because I worked hard today. And I deserve this because my husband didn't work as hard. And so I should just be able to sit at home tonight, and you're thinking that way. Is that going to affect whether you decide to go to church or not? Sure it is. Yeah. How about if you're thinking, the Lord wants me to go tonight, and since I know the Lord wants me to go tonight, I'm going to go. Well, what you're thinking affects what you decide to do. Then what you do affects what you think. When you've done the right thing, then you can think right. You can say, well, I did what the Lord was pleased with, and you'll be a happier person. Well, and that's where the feeling comes in. Does what you do affect how you feel? Yes, it does. It definitely does. When you do right, you feel right. Sometimes you even have to do something you don't feel like doing, but you will feel better after you do it. So there are a lot of times when you'll look at something and you'll say, I really don't feel like doing that. I mean, that's the last thing on my list that I want to do. I've told people about a book called Eat That Frog. And you only need to read the first chapter. That's the entire book. There are two books I know that you only have to read the first chapter in. One is this one. It's Eat That Frog. And the whole premise of the book is that when you get up, you look at the task that you have to do. And you look at the biggest, ugliest frog, and you eat him. And then the rest of your day will be much easier. But he said most people will look at the biggest, ugliest, awfulest thing they have to do, and they'll put it off. And it's still staring at you at the end of the day. Mike?
There's a rumor that some of the teachers at Keystone, not me, the bad ones, don't always feel like coming to teach, but usually they, not me, feel accomplished at the end of the day after they get through it.
You do. Yeah. When you do what you're supposed to do, then it changes how you feel. And it changes how you think. Yeah. So you do that thing that you don't want to do, and it changes things. All right, well, keep that in mind, because we'll come back to that maybe. I'm not sure if we'll get there tonight. But let's look at this list. And rather than going through details, I just want to put it up here. He said, you have the schemes of the devil that you're going to face. So you have to recognize that individually, you're going to go through some schemes of the devil. He's going to look at Caleb Pippin, and he's going to say, here's how I think I could get Caleb Pippin. It's not going to be the same way as Jeff. He's going to scheme on how he can get you. And if you're a lady, he's going to say, I think this is a good scheme to get her. I'm going to let her look at Facebook and see a couple of comments. That'll do it. Yeah. And he knows what scheme he's going to use with you. And so he says, not only the schemes, but he said, you're going to have some wrestling to do. You're going to have some struggles that you go through. And these struggles are not because you've done something. Understand that. These struggles are because you're a believer and you are now battling or wrestling with the principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness or the world forces, and spiritual wickedness. You are actually wrestling against those. You're in a wrestling match. They're trying to pin you. And these schemes are going on, and they're trying to win, you're trying to win, but you're in this. And this is a dimension you can't see, a dimension that you don't feel like you're going to be able to interact with, but you will interact with it. So I want to ask you this question. Is there evidence, let's just take the Old Testament to start with. We've done this before, but is there evidence in the Old Testament that there clearly is a spirit world? And by spirit world, I mean that there's this dimension that is not physical, it's spiritual. It would include angels, and it would include demons, especially when we get to the New Testament. All right? What do you think? Can you think of any specific situations or specific Old Testament stories where that is true? Where do we find that? Okay? Give me some examples of that. All right, King Saul. All right, yeah. All right. Boy, that's a fun one. Yeah. All right, Greg?
Angel visitations to say that you're going to give birth in the Old Testament.
Okay, yeah. Angels several times visited to tell people you're going to give birth. We've studied some in Judges. All right. Nate, was that a hand? Elijah? Yeah. All right, Elijah, you've got several times with him, actually, that you've got evidence of this. All right? Sam? Yeah. Balaam and a talking donkey and an angel that's standing there waiting to kill him. All right? So, Ron? Job. Yeah. Yeah. He's an interesting. We'll come to him in just a second. All right? Who was it? One more. The fiery furnace. Okay, you've got the fiery furnace with Daniel, and you've got this one who is like the image of the Son, a son of the gods, is what it literally says. We would say it's a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ. But there is clearly a world that we can't normally see. Let me put a couple of things up here. We're not going to look up each verse. I've written a little bit out for you. But if you were to just start in Genesis, in chapter 24, verse 7, very early in the Bible, you have references before this. It says that he put the seraphim there to guard the Garden of Eden. But if you come to chapter 24, it's talking to Abraham. It says, to your descendants I will give the land. And then it says, he will send his angel before you, in front of you. So here's God saying, I have a spirit world, and I have angels that I'm actually going to send that are going to go before you. And so I've got people who can help you. You move on to Genesis chapter 28, verse 12, and a lot of us will remember this story. You remember the story about Jacob's ladder? And it says, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Well, that's something I've tried to picture, that here's Jacob, and Jacob's going to be wrestling with probably a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ or with an angel of some sort. But he sees the angels of God. They're ascending and descending on it. Now, does that mean they always go up and down a ladder? Definitely not. But he saw angels. It was clear. In 1 Chronicles 21:15, it says, and God sent an angel to Jerusalem to destroy it. So here's a destroying angel. This is one of God's angels, but God sent this angel to destroy it. One other verse I'll put up here, and you mentioned a bunch of the more well-known ones. But Psalm 78:25 says that man did eat the bread of angels. He was talking about the manna, but he calls it the bread of angels. And so he's acknowledging that there is a realm that you can't see. And so I think for believers, we have to be constantly reminded of that there is a spirit world, and that there is the good side of that which God uses. But then we get to the New Testament and we see the other side of that as well, and it really emphasizes that. Let me go to the New Testament, and I'm going to focus on one part of it. But think about the New Testament. Where do we see evidence that there's a spirit world in the New Testament? What comes to your mind when I ask you that? Carol?
I first think of Jesus when he was being tempted.
Okay, Jesus when he was being tempted. Absolutely. All right. What else in the New Testament? Sam?
Multiple aspects of spirits taking over people or being cast out of people.
Yeah. Throughout the Gospels, we have what I believe is the pinnacle of the battle between the spiritual forces. Demonic activity, demon possession, I think was at its height at that point. And we see numerous times where Jesus would come to somebody and they were demon possessed. And it's obvious. Everybody recognized it. And that's, by the way, one of the things you remember about demon possession. If somebody is demon possessed, you will know it. It'll become very clear. All right? Where else? What was it? The pigs, yeah. He cast the demons out. They go into the pigs, and they run down the hill, and he said, my name is Legion. Yeah, what was it? For we are many. Yeah, he's legions of demons. Yeah. Can you give me, Ron?
Paul saw the spiritual world.
Paul did. Yes. Did you say Paul saw it? Okay, yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. How about in Revelation? Yeah, the entire book, is focusing on the fact we're going to have this battle. And it's not going to be just a physical battle, it's spiritual. Let me focus on three. Carol got one of them. But when you think of Jesus' birth, we're going to come to that where we'll often sing about it or talk about it, that the angels announced his birth. Jesus' temptation says Satan took him to a high mountain. And so here is a spiritual realm that exists, and he actually tempted him. John chapter 20, at Jesus' resurrection, that's the other time we see the presence of angels and them interacting and talking with people. And you could go through the New Testament and find it regularly. Hebrews 13:12 talks about the fact that do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it. I'm not sure that we know the extent of that. Now, here's something I'm always careful to tell people. God's angels will not be involved in sin. So God doesn't disguise his angels in sin and see if you'll take care of them. So they're not going to come in sinful ways. But I think there are angels that we have had an opportunity to take care of. Now, I don't know any hard and fast examples of that that I could point to you, but I think because he said without knowing it, we don't know it. So I don't know exactly who he's referring to there, but it's true. When you get to Revelation 2, verse 1, he talks to the angel of the church of, and that can mean different things, but it just starts through Revelation where he's going to talk over and over about the angels. The other thing we learn is that the spirit world is expansive. Remember the story with Elisha in 2 Kings 6, 15 through 17? And his servant was there, and he said, the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And so when he opened his eyes, that's the verse that I always think of when I say you can't see them, but they're there. Because that verse says the Lord opened his eyes, and he saw. There they are. And I wonder if that's true today. I wonder if there are angels that would be surrounding this church. And as we serve, that he surrounds us. And we never see them. But it's a reality. And so in the spirit world, it's an expansive world. It's a world that we can't see. You know, he talked about the legions, which is 6,000 of them. When Jesus was dying on the cross, he said, don't you know that I could ask my Father for myriads of angels? And he describes, it's a spirit world that's expansive. And so while we can't see it, it is a world that exists. And so when we come to a time like this, we have to be careful that we don't not take it for granted, but that we don't delve into something that we're not taking seriously. And we want to be really careful that we don't fall into trivializing it or making it something that we don't think is as evil as it actually is. It is real. It is very real all the way through Scripture, and we want to take that seriously. All right, I'm going to stop there. I've got some more things, but I knew we would have way more up there. But I think that helps us as we think about this particular holiday. Still struggle to call it that, but this particular day and the things how we ought to respond to it. All right, let's go ahead and pray, and then we'll be dismissed. Father in heaven, it is kind of you to give us so much information and allow us to process it. And so I pray you'll help us to be careful to think through things in a way that will give us clarity about how to respond. And Lord, on this particular week, there are people who interact with neighbors in a way that is truly unusual. And at the same time, we want to be careful not to affirm something that is delving into things that we should not. And so give us wisdom on that. Help us to take advantage of the opportunities and yet be cautious in how we respond to others. We pray in Jesus'